not? Major label or not?
A or B? No major label. Not what I would recommend as a career path.
Why?
So funny to be so blunt about it. Right, just bam. And there's so much I want to say about it. Relative to a major label, the first thing that I would refer to is David Byrne of the Talking Heads. He has this great article where he talks about in the 80s when he started his career, how a major label worked with being able to record, being able to connect you with an audience, and then being able to distribute, create your own graphics and stuff like that. As we moved into 2020, all of those machines from a major label, we now are self-empowered to do. And the cost differential doesn't make that much sense to go on those kind of ventures to a major label. And one of the great statements is it's 7 times more likely to be struck by lightning than it is to break even on a major label. So that kind of breaks that down. And one of the things also relative to major labels and that kind of scene, I'm a very pragmatic artist. I still love music. I look at the major labels as great entertainment, and that's a good thing. But it's not where I'm coming from. And I was at a meeting for Berklee College of Music, and we were talking about a liaison with Australia. And they're very proud, and I'm a Berklee grad, and I'm very proud of that. And they were talking about all the Grammy Award-winning artists they had put out every year. Very proud of that. And I said, that's cool, but what about the rest of us? What about the rest of us in music careers, in our communities, with loved ones that we can touch, our garden that is maybe 35 kilometers? And that's where I kind of put more of my energy, and I direct to my clients. Direct them into your community, direct how you can serve using your art form, inspire and collaborate with others. And if it grows into the bigger garden or you get discovered, that's a great question. I wouldn't go to seek that.
So just for the viewers who don't know Berklee, can you elaborate just real quick what Berklee is?
Sure. Berklee College of Music's in Boston, Massachusetts. It's arguably one of the top contemporary music schools in the world, as opposed to most conservatories where they teach a good amount of classical. Berklee really focuses on contemporary composition and performance.
Cool. And John Mayer has been there, right?
John Mayer has
one
been
of
there.
The most famous one.
Marsalis, the list goes on.
Yeah. So very famous institution. The reason why I opened with the major or not, because I think us working in the field for a long time as mentors, as educators, it's probably one of the most asked questions or desires of clients when they start out, like, hey, one day I want to sign with a major label, right? And I think why do you think that students or that musicians still have that desire to go to a major label?
I think there's a separation between what we see on television, what we aspire to be as an artist, to what the pragmatics actually are, and this whole thing of the world exploding with media and this connectivity. Artists used to work, you had to be amazing before you were famous. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, the Beatles, you had to have something. And now what it is, and I go in meetings all the time, it's like, let's push the aesthetic first. Let's push the branding first. Let's get famous first, not because we are celebrated for our spirit warrior time, but just for our aesthetics and stuff like that. I had a great student. She's like, I have 200,000 followers on Instagram. And I go, is there a single note of your music on Instagram? And she says, no. And I go, honey, they ain't following your music. Now, what I do when someone wants to have that goal, I'm like, great, let's put that up there. The beauty, Michelle, is that what I want them to accomplish, if they use that as an end goal, they're still going to get there. You still have to have a website. You still have to have a philanthropy in your cause. You still have to have followers that you're doing. You still have to relate. Do you know what I mean? So you're building yourself for that, and life happens while you're making plans. You get your first gig. You get your second gig. They don't tell people as professional musicians, if you graduate college or have any training, your first couple of years are teaching.
Yeah.
C major scale, whatever instrument it is. I always tell people Mozart, who is like everybody else, Brahms, Beethoven, Bach, Mozart had students all the time. They died. Yeah. Those are the pragmatics, of being a live musician.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your journey. You've been in the business for decades, right?
Yes.
How do you keep it up? I think it's one, you know, it's one story to, you know, like have a hit or play in a band and you're pro for, you know, maybe 1 or 2 years, or, you know, have an engagement here and then drop out. But how do you consistently make a livelihood out of music? What are the key ingredients for you?
That's a great question. And I think I would look at it this way. When I started out, let's see, I'm 48 now, so I've been graduated for about 26 years. Mm-hmm. And when I started out in my early 20s, I was a composer and a performing musician. And so I got really good at those. I practiced a lot. I composed for everybody I could. And I used to do dance classes. So I do dance concerts, you know, a couple $1,000s, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that got me to a certain point. Okay. So I got this skill set on being able to compose and to be able to perform.
Yeah.
I wanted to start making my own albums. No one's paying me for this yet. I'm just creating these things. So I'm learning that skill set. Now I start to develop a reel where I'm composing for Harvard, I'm composing for MIT and all this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I make an album where suddenly that album is a composite of all my work. So now I have a business card, okay? Now I used to be Martin Case Music. Now I'm in my 30s. I run into a woman where I suddenly find myself being a stepfather. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, this running around playing saxophone, hitting a hand drum, and playing piano for dancers. You know, a couple $1,000s a gig every once in a while to compose is found wanting. So what I really sat down and I Swiss Army knifed my assets. And I said, what are all the things that I can do and how I can serve? Well, I can produce people. I can make albums. I know how to make graphics. I know how to run a band now. I know how to get gigs. And so what I did was, in reinventing myself, I called myself a saxophone player, mm-hmm. then a composer, then an artist. So suddenly if I'm getting a job to do some graphic work, it's not a dirty thing. I'm still a mm-hmm. musician, but now I'm a larger thing. Then I moved into the title of multimedia producer, and that's where I am now. So I'm still a saxophone player. I'm still a composer. I'm still working in all these. But as a multimedia producer, I've suddenly gone from, to use a military term, instead of being a private with the gun, that's the saxophone guy, I'm now the general. I got a little white hair, you know? It's not my job to do that. It's not my job to collaborate and create space for others because I know how to do it. Mm. If you look at my business, it's Martin Case Media Productions, and my logo is serving through media arts. Mm-hmm. And what I said is, as long as I go through ego death, stop using the words I, breathe in people and the clients and the needs of my community pragmatically, I'm never out of work, ever.
Interesting. So when you say, so far, what I hear you saying is that a lot of times you put on different hats, right? And that leads me to the next question. I think that's really interesting, and it's always in my head since I started making music, because what is, like, the question that I have is it better to be a generalist, which means you have a broad overview over something, or is it better to be a specialist? Right, and the reason why I'm asking that is I read the book Changemaker by John Berardi, and he comes from the fitness industry, and he greatly advises to create a T, right? So have one or two specialties that you're really extremely good at, but have a broad knowledge of of skills that can support your livelihood, right? What is your answer? Like, do you have to be a specialist in the music industry to survive, to be like a vocal producer for hip hop, versus I can do everything a little bit. I can do sound engineering. I can do light engineering. I have management skills. I have Photoshop skills. I can make videos. What do you think, like, especially for new people breaking into the industry, what's the answer for you?
That's a really great question. And I think, Michel, what you're alluding to is that classic guy with the business card that's audio producer, engineer, will wash your car and walk your dog. Mm-hmm. You don't want that business card.
Yeah.
So let's break this down, whether we go for a generalist view or a specialist view.
Yeah.
Talking relative to, say, music in its pure form. my attitude towards that is this is the way that I've learned and the way that I teach theory is that I can write in 15th century classical, I can write a techno piece, I can write any kind of music from any style. And I think that's, if you know theory in its fundamental form. I had a student say something they were like this. They're like, it's a jazz chord. And I'm like, no, it's a chord. I can play that like a jazz person, or I can play it like a classical person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just pure theory. Now, going along as far as things that you offer, that's a good one. I guess my answer to that has been, I wanted to learn every single aspect of my business. My first mistake was my business partner. We got a venture capitalist funding in our early 20s. I trusted him with finances. I left that pause intentionally. That was my first mistake in not understanding every part of my business. Mm-hmm. Now, what I do when I bring in a client is I say that I'm a producer, and I give a menu. And I say, these are the different aspects of you need. Now, if you have a price point like this, I can do this work myself. But again, that puts me into the generalist mode. What I'm offering as a unique thing as a producer. And what I say to myself and to my clients is, I know and can do everything. I just store it in other people.
Okay.
So you need a killer graphics, boom. You need a killer pianist, boom. I was in Boston 3 years ago. Somebody needed to record a building downtown, couldn't get a drone license. I called the U.S. Marines in 23 minutes, had a chopper up. Okay, I don't know how to fly a chopper, but I know how to fly a chopper.
Wait, how do you guys? Wait a minute. Wait. You called so what did you say? Like, what are the phone call that you said? Like, hey, it's Martin here. Can you please put a chopper up? Yes, I'll pay on credit card. Or what? How did that happen?
I know. And what it is, and this is the fun thing in our industry is you use these kind of mindsets, and they can kind of empower you. So this client called me, and I'll just break down this job. It was a multimedia piece where they wanted to have, filming of the buildings that they were building and what they were renting, and we were going to do this multimedia, music in the background and all this. They couldn't get a drone license to film the building, and what happened was, pre-production had been set up to this point, and then post-production was going to fall apart if they did not get this chopper thing. So this is why it's important collaborating. This is why it's important to go to parties and not talk about yourself. When I go to a party, I'll talk to somebody. I ask them a question. While they're answering back, I say, Martin, shut up, listen, do not say the word I. Ask them another question about themselves. Now I've set them up. I breathed in their skill set. I put it in my head. So I knew in my skill set, I had this person that I used to get out information about bands and acts like this, worked for a newspaper. Mm-hmm. This is about 4 minutes after me hanging up the phone with the guy to get the big gig saying I got this sorted. I call up my newspaper person. I say, can I use one of your choppers? They say no, but I got a guy in the military. We stick a camera on. We're sticking on one today. What's the locale? What are the GPs? What do you need done? Boom, done. 10 minutes later, make the next call. Got the gig.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
Now, that has nothing to do with going to Berklee. That has nothing to do with practicing my C scales. What it has to do is using philosophy, psychology, and empathy, and then you're employed.
So kind of to sum it up, it's not whether to be a generalist or a specialist. It's about knowing the aspects of your skill and knowing the right people for the right job.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's really big to build community. And I'll read it again. You should know every aspect. I know Photoshop. I drive around, do lots of graphics. I know Final Cut Pro. If I have $35,000, you know what I mean? And I'm asked to do a 10-minute interview, I'm going to call my guy up north. It's funny, I point up north giving thanks. Pav, who when I talk to him about Final Cut Pro, he dorks out on me so hard. I'm like, look, I don't care. I know that you're passionate and expensive. Great, I'm using you. Cool. So now I'm great at Final Cut Pro.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Right. That's my approach, mate.
Okay. So that leads me to the next question, because you mentioned a lot of business. You mentioned a lot of networking. You and I 120% agree. I think the most important asset that we have as musicians is the ability to listen and listen again and ask and listen more, right? Make people feel seen, make people feel heard, build that network. When you talked about the business side, how much do you actually, let's say like in a day, like how much do you actually spend on your instrument and perfect your craft as a musician versus how much time do you actually spend on building business, creating business? Because like I don't know about you. Well, I have a good feeling, but like I've been educated to uni and spent 8 years on practicing and learning scales, theory, all of those things, and then I left and I thought like, okay, cool. I'm like, I think I'm good at what I'm doing, but what am I doing now with it, right? And I think there's this misperception of people, I need to be better at my instrument to be more professional. And I think I want to kind of, see that from your perspective because you're doing it for so long. Please share your wisdom with us.
Brother, you can see when you were talking about the big smiles that I had. And it's one of the first things that nails you. You're like, okay, my business isn't doing well. I got to keep practicing my instrument harder and harder and harder. There's a great book put out. I wish I could remember the name. It's from Harvard University, where they break down the great minds of like Churchill, Socrates, Picasso, Mozart, all of these great minds through our time. And what you'll notice is that every single one of them had set aside times during the day for correspondence, right? So Churchill wakes up in bed, has his whiskey, has his breakfast in bed, sits there. The dictators are typing letters. Doesn't get out of bed till he's half drunk around noon. Everybody had their one point, but the one thing that they all had together was correspondence. They all had the business of running their affairs. And one thing I see with a lot of musicians is they don't adopt like a business lifestyle. Like I get up, I'm at my office at 8, I'm done by 5, 6, unless my wife lets me, and then I work on fun stuff. Now, what I've done sometimes is I've gone too hard in the wrong directions, or I'll do too much business, and then I lose spirit, And so what I do is I wake up, I have a cup of coffee, say hi to my wife and my cat. I look over all of my correspondence as a glance. After my cup of coffee, I play djembe, West African hand drum. I play one rhythm for a half an hour straight. This is meditation. It gets me into a hallucinogenic state, and I think about my world, everything that flows through me. After that, I come in and I do 2 hours of correspondence, emails, proposals, calls, invoices, and the like. Break for breakfast, another 2 hours, break for lunch, half hour on saxophone. Come back, take a nap usually after that, or do some work, then start composition, unless I've cut out a composition day where I don't talk to anybody on the planet.
So your day is really structured, like when you wake up what your day will look like and what your week will look like. Yeah,
and it's organic, okay? And I'm telling you, that's where I am right now. And I'm very happy with the structure I told you right now. And what it does for me is it makes sure that all the houses that I work on, my compositional house, my practice house, my meditation house, my business house, all of my houses are taken care of. And that way I can start to flow a little bit mentally inside the form rather than, I've got to do this. I'm behind on this. That way I can make sure that everything's ticked. And my attitude is I'm not going for the Grammy. Be great. Major label, sure, be great. But every day I'm working on being a better person and a better musician, and how better can I serve my community? And that is my practice on all those levels. And I was such a little puke at 32, and I know at 60, 65, I'll look back at this time at 48 and I'll be like, I can see where I was found wanting with joy. But at least I know that now and I'm on the path.
Yeah.
Does that really answer the question?
It does. I think what's important to notice is, first of all, you're a very spiritual person. And you mentioned that for you serving the community is really important. Working with clients, especially especially coming out of school, mid-20s, where most people, like just brain development wise, are still building on their prefrontal cortex, which means really learning how to identify themselves and you know, who we are and how we fit in. My question is, why is it so important as a pro musician to serve the community? Not just as a spiritual act, not just as an act of love, but why is it as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a pro musician so important to serve community and others?
Okay, let's talk about it pragmatically. Okay, I think that's a really great one. So let's talk about community and how that actually works. If I write an album by myself and record it myself and produce it myself, okay, nobody cares. There's a concept called the virtue of selfishness. You know, hi, you want to hear my album about my ex-girlfriend and my feelings on it? No, I don't. I'm busy with my own stuff going on. So go to a party. You'll see everybody at the parties all worried about themselves and what they're thinking, what they're saying. And you'll see that person across the room that's actually one of them out of their head looking around the room. And you smile at them and you go over and you go, hi, what's your name? What are you doing? And they evade. They'll give you and they go, no, but more importantly, who are you and what are you doing? And you're like, found a brother, right? That's starting where you start to build community. Those are the people who start to link out. I'll tell you an example. When I first got here, I had no business. I got here 3 years ago. I was asked to do a concert series for a local market. Now, we're not talking about me being a good person. We're talking about me using community in a pragmatic way to help my business in my house. So scenario A, I get my band, which nobody knows, to hear music that nobody knows in a country where nobody knows me.
Because you came from America?
I came from America. This is my first.
So you lived in Boston before you settled over?
Lived in Boston before I moved here about 3-4 years ago.
And now you live in Melbourne?
And now I live in Melbourne. Married 6 months ago, soon to have citizenship. Very happy.
Whoop, whoop.
Woo! So here I am, 90 days in America with my first job offer.
In America or Australia?
No, I'm sorry, in Australia with my first job offer, right? I really don't have a band. I haven't written music that Aussies like, and nobody knows me. So what I decide to do is I decide every month, in addition to my band playing, to take a local community group and to celebrate them. We make a video, we put them online. There's no money flowing so far. And I have people from nursing homes coming. I have the world's largest garage band, which has 75 members. I have big bands coming that are 50 members. I have choirs coming that are 40, 50 members. We have a Taste of Finland night that brings hundreds of people that are from Finland, you know, that are expatriates that are coming. After 1 year, I asked for $6,000 to be able to pay the band and get expenses. We run that next year with the same theme where we honor elders, we honor minority groups, we celebrate our diversity. In the second year, I'm approached and they say, Martin, we noticed that you'd like to do this. Would you like to, what else would you like to do? And I go, well, I'd like to have 2 nights at the substation. I'd like to have $5,000 for a publicist. I'd like to make an album. I want to hire 5 composers. In this project, when people are on stage, it will hire 250 Australians that will all get paid out of the $75,000 grant. Find out with that in a week. Now, I've only been here 36 months. Now, I'm producing that whole thing. I'm directing it. I know everything, can do everything. Trust me, I got a team of the best Australians possible.
So wait a minute.
That's a 5-figure gig for me in 36 months. And by the way, I'm not my band's in it. You know what I mean? Like, but by doing that in community and saying that, wow, I can be a motivating force to employ and to propagate all of this art, people are like, we want you. Because you're not making it all about yourself. You're making it about us, and we care about us.
Okay, that is crazy. So first,
that's what I'm doing when I'm not over with you working in the studio, mate. This is the other day job.
So first, you come over and you think like, well, you know, like fuck, I don't know anyone, and I know exactly how that feels because I moved here 4 years ago as well.
I know. You and I are brothers in this thing.
So and you. The first thing that you did was not like, okay, what can I do for myself? Like, how can I build something really quick for myself and get recognition and get fame and break into the business here and meet the important people. But what you did was, okay, well, what is my skill set? What is my mindset? How can I serve others without asking something in return?
Bam.
And then what happens as a consequence of that, by giving, and at change makers as well, the ratio should be like 10-1, right? I think that's a good ratio. 10 times giving before receiving once, right?
Cool.
I really like that.
Yep.
And then as a consequence, since you care for people, they start caring for you.
Exactly.
And they offer you things, and they asking you what you need now. So instead of you asking, hey, this is what I need, because you give them value over and over again and you listen to them, now they asking you.
Two things. One, exactly. Within 60 days of that process of me starting with that mission, I was introduced to, councilmen, councilwomen. I was introduced to the mayor. I was introduced to the members of the Lions Club internationally and how we can propagate this. Now, what I wanted to do when I landed here was I wanted to have a band that played my own music. I wanted to get an album out. I wanted it to be in Australia. I've accomplished all of that with this one project. That's just a mere subset. There's
Cool.
all of this stuff on top that's paying my living, my wage, and employing these 200 Australians, by walking into my community, walking in here and saying, how can I help you? How can I help you? How can I help you?
That's crazy. Can we maybe make a little thought experiment? Let's say, we are, or let's say I'm 19, I finished high school. I'm really good at playing guitar. Let's say I played guitar for 7-8 years. I had good teachers. I played in a couple of bands, maybe wrote 1 or 2 songs. And I want to go pro.
Okay.
What do you think would the most effective, the most sustainable approach to do that? Do you think I should go to university? Do you think I should learn more? What would your advice be if I would come to you with that request?
That's a really great question. And a lot of people are wrestling with this right now. You're the 19-year-old guitarist. You put your time in, you can play well. You're looking at university and you're looking at the free market out there. I just priced, this is, the US dollar and the Australian dollar are fluctuating right now. So the numbers are, and they're changing a lot. But the last time I checked, it was 256 Australian dollars in order to go to Berklee. It's $250,000, Right. And then mate, because I did, you walk out, so you're a better guitar player, that's great. But, you got $250,000 at your back. What I would say is this: keep up lessons probably until your early 20s. Keep that going. At the same time, start giving lessons, because you have to suddenly start having a revenue stream coming on. Okay. The other thing is, if you're between 19 and 22, in addition to giving lessons and having a money stream coming in, start collaborating with people, and don't do it for free. Either do it in barter. I'll give you this saxophone solo if you give me a guitar solo. Give somebody $20. Start moving something around that's important. I'm working for a guy right now. He got a website that I'm building for him. It's $7,000 website, right? So what he's doing is like, I don't have $7,000, but here's this car. I'm like, all right, man, I'll take a car. And that's me in my 40s. So, but you've got to bounce things around. Doing things for free all the time, or not even having a sense of barter, delegitimizes the work and the time that you're doing. Okay. The other thing on that is I'd start to get out there and I'd start playing and serving. So you want to work on your skill set, but you also want to work in your performance aspect.
What do you mean by playing and serving? What does it mean?
I think so. I think what happens is a lot of people in their 19s, it's about their music and their thing. And so they come in performance and they perform at people. And they say, like, this is the sound that I like, and this is what I want to do. And there's that barrier to, you're projecting something that no one's asked for and no one might be into, And so I think by going to, say, open mic nights, right? Now you're getting your world out there. You're getting your sound out there and you're starting to network. I did this. I moved into nursing homes. Each one has a trapped audience. Each one usually has a piano. Each one wanting to hear you. And also, they're not trying to think you're sexy or not. They'll tell you if you suck. So now you're taking lessons, giving lessons. You're up in open mic nights. You're out in nursing homes. You get collaborating and you work on all this stuff. Start working on your skill set. Get yourself out there.
Okay. So I'm 19 now. I start giving lessons. I'll start collaborating with others. I go to nursing homes and practice my listening to how much I suck skills. And then what?
Okay,
What now? So
let's rewind just a little bit on things.
yeah,
I think this is fun, and because I'm thinking about my own experience, right?
yeah, yeah.
So let's see. Graduated college, and let's see. Dietary aid. My job was to take the food and I pureed it so that it was totally, you could just drink it like a shake. Digging trenches at 6 in the morning. The only one who didn't go to prison and had a college degree. That was me digging trenches. Working for my stockbroking license as a Series 7 operator so I could move stocks independently. McDonald's, 6 hours. Trying to give blood in Florida for $50 a shot. They don't pay, unfortunately. These are all the jobs I had. Bike courier, lost my front teeth, major city in Boston. These are all the jobs I had in a 12-month span after graduating college.
Wait a minute. So
Everything I just described was with a Berklee degree in 12 months.
Wait a minute. So you went to the most, or one of the highly decorated music
Arguably the best.
uni in the world.
97% dropout rate, by the way, at the time. So only 3% make it.
So you're in the top 3%. You have your degree.
Did everything
go out,
right.
You think, ta-da, here I am. Where's everyone?
Yep.
And then you saw yourself like, what were you thinking? While then digging trenches? What went through your head?
I thank you, because I remember standing there and I was like, Michelle, I'm almost crying thinking about this as I'm looking at 50. I was like, I just must be crazy. I must be a crazy person because I actually think I did the right things and I think my music's really beautiful and I'm the only one here who hasn't gone to prison this morning and I'm digging this trench. Or I'm standing here giving blood or I'm trying to give blood for money. Or I don't have a car, so I have a bicycle. I'm biking through the darkness so I can go puree eggs and muffins into a mix in the morning. It was just a real wake-up call. And so what I did was the best job off the axe is not as good as the worst job on the axe.
Mm.
So I said, okay, I'm going to have my day job, but I'm going to start giving lessons at night. I'm going to start doing every single gig. I mean, I played Mustang Sally on saxophone so many times. Mustang Sally, right? I would play every gig I could get my hand on, every recording. I'd go to the recording studio free. And then slowly, I got to where it was 50-50. Where lessons, gigging, this is all in my early mid-20s now, right? That's after a full year of that after college. Now I've been out 2-3 years, okay? It starts to move 50-50 and eventually the lessons are enough that I can drop this off. I'm still not making any money out there in gigs, still not making any recording, but that's slowly starting to work and I'm starting to sell myself as a composer. Now I'm into 25, I'm starting to get that work. I think it's also really important, it's really fun, is you want to keep meeting new people and new friends. I think about my high school friends. If I walk up to them and say, hi, I'm a multimedia producer who's worked internationally, have a Grammy Award winning clients I've worked with, they'd laugh at me and they'd be like, Martin, sit down, you're just a little boy. You're the kid who fell down that hill and then skated your knee and you cried. That's who you are. So when you meet new people and I say, hi, I'm a multimedia producer or hi, I'm a composer, people just pick you at it. And then now you have an opportunity to fill that and to serve that. But that's another way to move in your career. I worked in dance for 20 years. I really loved working in dance. I've worked for Alvin Ailey, Bill T. Jones, Mark Morris, Russian ballet companies, Boston ballet, New York ballet companies. I can go on. Pretty much anybody in dance I've worked for. And then at the end of all that, I was like, I want to move into being a composer. I want to move into multimedia producer. I need to get my income from 5 figures to 6 figures because I'm a stepfather now. So when I went to my people of dance for 20 years in my mid 40s, they'd known me since I was in my 20s. And I was like, I'm a multimedia producer now. They're like, no, you're a dance accompanist. That's so cute. Tap, tap, tap. And so by expanding my collaborative network, I was able to get out of a pretty successful music field, keep it, but to grow. That's why I'm like, you got to keep networking. You got to keep talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think, I mean, we all know the famous quote, "You are the people you surround yourself with," right?
Yeah.
Jim Rohn, very famously, the godfather of personal development. And I think it's almost impossible to break out of your current circumstances, even if you like those circumstances, but they don't reflect your highest values anymore. You cannot get out of that if you stay in that circle, right? So you need, in order to really change your life or improve your life or reinvent yourself, whatever you want to call it, you need to get out of that circle, right?
Yeah, and that's why I say this, because I think it's when people say they're a hip hop producer or they're this style producer, I get it, and I know that that's important. And it's good to have a love and a passion. For me, I personally love ethnic music. Personally, love lots of percussion. If I could do my albums, my friends laugh at me. They're like, "Yeah, we know, Martin. 25 djembes, 25 drums, and 3 saxophones." And I've made that album many times. My first band was 25 drummers and 1 saxophone player.
Oh my God.
Dude, I'll send you a recording. It was just awesome. Right?
Please share with us, yeah.
But if you know your theory and your skill sets in a kind of a neutral way, and notice how I'm holding my hands out, like these hands are ready to do what you want. Like I'm talking now to a ukulele ensemble. I have a death metal ensemble. I'm working with a pianist who works at Carnegie Hall. I have the world's largest garage band of 60 members at a time. Big bands, choirs, a string group. This is all in my, this is this week. This is my history. This is my to-do list.
And that's not even at 12 p.m.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's this week, mate. You know what I mean? And what it is because I'm like this. What are you into? That's cool. Send me 3 copies of whatever you're into. I breathe you in. Now I'm smarter and I can help you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have it's just, for me, it's really interesting. You went to Berklee, you went through a major transformation, right? You went up here on the pinnacle, right? At a graduation party, 3%, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debts, and you think now someone will catch you, and no one, boom, done there, right?
Yeah.
So my question, and I think a lot of people saying that. My first question was, major label, yes or not. My second question, yes or not question is, are you going to uni or not as a musician today? Would you still do it? Does have hundreds of thousands of student debts and in the highest decorated music uni in the world, does it rectify the cost?
Okay, I'm almost crying. Let's break that down a little bit. I think you have to watch the uni and where you go, and what kind of degree they give. And what I mean by that is, I'm very proud of where I went, and I'm very proud of my mind frame. And it's such joy to have this in my head. I taught at a university where they had a music minor. You could get a minor, degree, and basically you went to a room for 2 classes and you listened to recordings, and you had a minor in music. And that really scared me. I was like, what is the quality of education that we're giving for these kind of degrees and stuff like that? It's kind of like me alluding to the David Byrne idea, where this is the old paradigm. Does it work presently? I think relative to our field, Michel, I think what you need is you need ear training. I think that's the biggest thing. I think you need theory of a fundamental base level. And then what I do is, as I adopt clients, like I have a client right now from Uganda, right? Ugandan rhythms. So I'm going to study Ugandan rhythms. Why? Because someone's paying me to do that. The other thing is, so a base level of ear training theory, some courses on, being a contemporary composer. Okay. I had a man working for me with a master's degree. I have a bachelor's, and he was writing out my charts. This was before Sibelius. And when I paid him, I said, how is it that you have a master's degree and I have a bachelor's and I'm paying you? Shouldn't you be hiring me? And he said, well, Martin, when they asked me to compose music, when I was done, I said, here you go. And they said, what the hell is that, a piece of paper? Where's the CD? And he never composed again. This is a guy who has a master's degree from uni. I'm composing, I'm getting paid. He's writing my charts because I can put it on a CD.
So did someone ever, Martin, did someone ever ask you for your degree? Did you ever get a job because of your Berklee degree?
This is why it's an interesting conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
And my heart goes out to people that make this decision. And I'll just be forward to anybody who's listening and checking this out. I've been working with institutions to find ways for Australians and internationally to solve this. And I'm very proud of the team that we have. And I don't want to go into detail or in that scope, but there are answers to some of this. Now, whether somebody's ever asked me for my degree, in the beginning, yes. In the beginning, yes. And
because they didn't know you.
They didn't know me, and I was 20-something, and they wanted to see what it showed was that I could dedicate to a task. Now, since then, I didn't think about it for 20-something years. I've never said the word Berklee more in my life than I have since I've been in Australia. You know what I mean? Because once I graduated, it was like, okay, now I work at Harvard. I got another name drop, or oh, here's my reel, or here's people that can vouch for me. That's why I could get a helicopter in 7 minutes. Do you know what I mean? It's because you've shown yourself in community. Moving to Oz, name dropping like that opens doors, and that's difficult to say because I don't want people to pay that $256,000 price tag. But at times, has it worked? Yes. As an artist, even when I was, if you're at Berklee in Boston, if you graduated Berklee, nobody cares, Michel. Because the college is right over there, and there's another Berklee guy. Oh, he's serving pizza. Oh, there's another Berklee guy. He's over at Starbucks. See that Berklee guy over there driving the taxi? I mean, it's just littered, right?
Why do people still go to Berklee then?
Let me just finish this one thought. So being in Berklee and being in Boston, if I said, "Hi, I work at Harvard," knocks it out of the water. You know, in Australia right now, I say, I work as correspondence with Universal School of Music. Oh, bang. So to have credentials and institutional affiliation, I do think is a real boon to a professional artist. And it shows you have crossed the line from your girlfriend's album, in your basement to knowing how to collaborate and really do stuff.
Okay.
You asked me a question and I want to hear that.
I forgot about it. Was just curious. But that's so it's neither or, right? So what I hear you saying is that there is no yes or no. It really depends on what your past is and what you want to do with it. Is that correct? Or
I mean, what I'm saying to people now, if you really love education and that's your ride, okay, then go to uni and do that. And I don't think you need to spend $256,000 to be able to pull that off. I think if you're 19 years old, 18, 19 years old now, and you want to do this, say it was my son, all right? Now I'm a professional musician. And I remember in high school, my music teacher said to me, he goes, "You know what I do to guys like you? I try to wear you out. I act like an asshole. I get it so you hate music, so you don't do it. You're the first person I won't try to wear out, so welcome to the club. Andalusia, here we are." And I've done since. If I had my son, whom I'm going to assume, as you say, with our, frontal cortex issues and narcissism and Instagram, I'm so hot and beautiful and all that I stuff, I would tell my son to go a place where we work pretty much. Universal School of Music, enroll in a program, figure out a pragmatic map with professionals, like, okay, this is how you engineer for yourself. This is how you get clients. Boom. Do 12 months of that and see where you are. Now you can do your gap year where you travel to Spain and all that kind of stuff. I'm a capitalist and I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
19 to 20, 18 to 19, put in your 12 months and see how you do and see if you like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then make that decision.
Great.
What is your thoughts on that? I know it's my interview, but I love you. I'm curious.
No, I think unless you want to be part of an educational system, unless your pathway is I want to be a professor at a music uni, I think it's absolutely a waste of time and a waste of money. I love education. I'm in the education business for almost 20 years. That's what I make my livelihood most of the time with. But what I don't like is when it's when it's basically one size fits all, and when you literally pay for the toilet on the other end of the campus that you never see, you know, when you pay for things that you will never use. So for me, like, I like the individual approach. So like, I personally, like, when I work with clients and they say like, what should I do? I say like, where do you want to be in 12 months or in 3 years, depending on how old they are and how fast they can see, and what is stopping you from being that person? And now that you know who's stopping you from being that person, who can help you to get those roadblocks out? Is it an issue on your instrument? Well, then go to the best guitar player in town or to the best guitar teacher and say like, here's $100 and I want you to bring me up to speed. Is it a business issue? Do you know how ABN works? Do you know how the business? Go to business school or do a personal MBA course, or go seek help, you know, from a professional that builds businesses, and basically have that block approach, because it's still, since you pay on the fly, you pay way less. Because it's really just what you need. You communicate better, you build your support network, you build your community out. And I think the second thing that I would say, like, get a job. Because see, if you're not able to hold a job that you fucking hate, but that still gives you security, financial security, because you need to invest in yourself, and most likely more in your education and in your equipment. And if you can't hold a job, if you can't turn up on time, if you can't say please and thank you, if you can't get to work even despite you don't want it, there's no room for you in the music industry, because 90% of times you do things that are shit in order to do the 10% that are really on your major radar, you know.
1,000%. I would say this is, I think you really described the niche. What happens is when we have the educational system, what we're talking about. The big problem I had with the educational system was, thanks for all of the skill sets, but I didn't have the pragmatics on how to apply it.
There's no application yet.
Yeah, and I got really lucky that some of my students were actually, you know, multi-millionaire CEO company running people. So even though I was teaching them lessons, they were actually teaching me about business. So that's how I kind of got my mentoring. And yeah, my attitude is get a job and support yourself. It'll motivate you. It'll motivate you to work the next 8, 9, 10 hours into the evening to get your business up. It's really great waking up and being like, right, I don't have to do a shift anywhere, putting something on a shelf.
Yeah.
You know, and I've earned that right, and that's one of the passages. I would say this, though, is, you know, when I was in college, or if I was, say, 19 or 20, I think one of the best jobs I got was a security job, no weaponry. So what it is you don't have a gun or anything on you. You wear this silk kind of thing, your security job. Man, I practice my saxophone like 7, 8 hours a day, you know, walking through buildings at midnight. You know, I go to the public library and I'm like, all right, who the hell is Hemingway? And I grab every single Hemingway book. Okay, who is Dostoevsky? Boom. And I did that for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I got fired, is I was playing saxophone in the garage, right? Because I was in the basement of this building downtown, playing saxophone, dude. My boss comes in, claps. I bowed, and we never talked again.
Wow. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Let's move speed a little bit. I would like to ask you a couple of quicker questions. Yeah.
Hey, before you ask me the quick questions, because that is a nail on the collar. It's 19-year-old. What I would do, I serve a lot of people like this, mate, and I know you do too. And I think you and I are at an age. It feels like we were 20s 2 minutes ago. But the truth is when I was a kid, you know, my heart's almost breaking because these are my ancestors who have passed now. I met those artists in their 40s, you know, and in their 30s, like real artists who are doing it. And I got to hang out with the real people. And I learned a lot, and I got exposed to a lot. And now that I'm in my 40s, looking at 50, I see that look in these kids' eyes, where they're looking at me, and I'm like, right, I'm now the elder. Yeah. And so I think, and what my job is I take the young people that I know and get them work like my elders did. And then for those that are older than me, like I got people that I work with that are in their 80s, you know, I kill for them. They're the elders of the tribe, and I'm at this position. Yeah. So I think if you think about that as a graph relative to our industry, if you're in your 19, your 20s, give Michel a call, give me a call, give a real producer a call. People are narcissistic and self-absorbed. Hi, Martin. Can you tell me about you? Yeah. Can you ask me another question about you? Yeah. Now I'm probably going to help you anything you need. It's because I'm not narcissistic. See what I'm saying?
We all are.
Yeah. So you had some questions to bullet. Lay it down.
Yes. So first question. Since I know you, you finish almost every sentence. I'm surprised I haven't heard it today with giving thanks. Why? You always say like, "Hey, I appreciate you, Michel." You're always like you're full of love, which I love about you.
Man.
And every single sentence that I hear you say in my ear is always giving thanks. Why? Where's that coming from?
I'm almost crying. And I have this jar around that might still be in America that actually says give thanks. It's usually on my desk. And where that comes from is Dwight Graves was a teacher of mine that I met in my mid-teens. He's that one of those 40-year-old guys that I told you about, that I reached out to. He taught me the spiritual aspects of playing drums and music, community. He taught me how to walk on fire, how to make a sweat, how to hallucinate with drums, like many, many things. And he would always say, give thanks. And he got it from the Rastafarian movement, Jamaican movement, where what it is, it's a reminder to give thanks for life and love and beauty and what you have. And it creates a neurosynapse in your head, which is like a muscle, so that you're constantly giving thanks that you're alive and that this is just an amazing place and it's going on. And so when I think about Dwight and when I think about my interactions with people, I say giving thanks. I'm giving thanks for this experience of this person. Now, I used to say give thanks, which is the traditional. But what would happen is as I would travel around the world, I'd say give thanks, and someone would say thanks. Like I gave them a command. And I was like, I'm not asking for something. I'm just saying, let us give thanks. Yeah. So it's morphed into giving thanks, and that's from Dwight Graves and the Rastafarian movement.
Wow, it's very powerful, right? And if you're constantly in the state of gratefulness and you're not looking for, I'm very into psychology, right? And
I know usually
we have a negativity bias, right? We're hardwired to see and observe everything that could
survival mode. I love talking.
Right. And reversing that, overriding that by constantly looking out for things that you can be grateful for. I think I'm not sure, but I would say if you wouldn't do that, you probably wouldn't be where you're right now. Would you agree with that?
Oh my God, I love that I'm talking when you know your psychology. There's so much of my success that has to do with my mind frame and that psychology of reaching out into knowing people. I think I look at psychology and philosophy as very close. I mean, psychology is just kind of like almost a pragmatic use of philosophy, and philosophy is really the word that we could have used for psychology if we really apply it. That's really important to me. It's how I know about caring about other people. I know about this idea of serving. All of these things are learned behaviors. I'm not this nice a person. This is a cultivated thing I worked at. For me, one of my things, and when we talk about styles, if I was forced, I've traveled all over the world. I study the different religions, and then I study the music. And I've done that in so many countries. That's how I met my wife. I was actually studying Bali Hinduism, which is a combination of Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and Muslim faith all in one. It's an anomaly. Wow. And so when you tie all of these kind of things together, one is it was expanding my musicianship, but then it was also expanding my mind. So now I'm getting these ancestral knowledge from thousands of years, plus psychology, plus philosophy. And look, we know the religions. Women suck, put your go down on Tuesday. You throw that stuff aside. They all got that. Every religion's bad except for this one. Throw that stuff aside. But if you look at like, one of your questions that you asked me was like, what is the biggest thing I could say if on a post-it to musicians about all my work and everything ever? And I wrote it last night thinking about you, brother. I wrote, try Buddhism.
Try Buddhism. So just for the audience, a pre-interview, I usually send out a couple of questions that I might ask. And one of the question was, on your dying bed, and the day before, all information about you has been erased, and you can put one piece of wisdom on a post-it note to remind the world of your greatest finding, of your greatest wisdom. And you said you would put on there, try Buddhism.
Try Buddhism.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm smiling so much, and I won't go into too much of an elaboration, but I'll give you just a great mental construct. I'm pissed at my wife. I mean, I'm pissed. I'm angry. And there's this mental construct that says, pretend that this is your wife's last day on this earth. This is the last time she sees this time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not angry anymore. I might have a point to make.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of concept just calmed me down completely.
Wow. I need to think of my ex-wife now.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It doesn't work all the time, you know.
Yeah.
You know, things like, you know, listen more. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but to remind me of it, that's why I keep that head, one of the only tattoos I thought about putting in my body. You know, but when you ask about being a good musician, I could be a painter, I could be a cook. I just happen to like music. I would say psychology, philosophy, and studying a little bit on some base religions is a great way to help your mind. And I know that sounds like a lot, but guys, if we just look at, say, you know, Freud, Jung, up, that's only 150 years. Not that much to read, man. You know? And one of those books, Overview of Philosophy. You know? Just get some base ideas. Look at the menu.
Well, I read once, I forgot where it was, and maybe it's a fraud, but I like the idea. It was saying, like, if you read 3 books about one topic, you're already in the top 3% of knowledge in that topic.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Yeah. And I like that. Maybe it's not true, but I like the idea. You know, most people are not reading anymore. Most people are not interested enough to read a second book about something, because we live in a very short time span. You know, like, we always have the feeling we need to rush. So I totally agree. I have a super related question to that one. Do you make your bed in the morning, and why or why not?
You know, it's funny. I saw that question and it cracked me up. And I'll break it down. I saw a military commander talking to cadets and how at West Point. And if you go to West Point, basically that means you're an officer, and you'll probably be leading a battalion or some large piece of multi-billion-dollar machinery to kill people. So they wanted you guys to be together.
Yay!
Don't get me going. Don't get me going.
Yeah.
But what he said is, he goes, as young men who are going to lead the world, make your bed first thing in the morning, right? Like, get that together. And Michelle, I've been married now 6 months, been living with my wife for 4 years. 5 years ago, no.
What changed?
Caring about myself and my wife. Caring about my wife first and foremost. She wants the bed made, therefore it's done. And then it got to be a point where it was symbolic of caring about her and myself. I would do things there. This is a great one for people to remember, is ancestors, self, family, community. A lot of people forget about ancestors, maybe stick with just themselves. One of my issues has always been skipping self and family and going right to serving to community. So that's kind of the order of how things go. And then from making this bed and thinking about it, I would make my wife breakfast. And I would make hers beautiful. I'd get flowers from the garden and be it all outlaid. And, you know, there'd be like the little things. And mine, I'd just go, and then I was like, wait a minute. I know that this is better nutrients. There's more love in the food. It's aesthetically pleasing. I'm an artist. So again, I went from ancestors, you know, people telling me this, to breathing it into myself. And then I'm giving it to this family. And then I'm strong enough to give to community. So this is all about making the bed. But yeah, it's the first things towards like self-respect. Like right now, I have this little thing on my desk that says, stop being a lazy, disrespectful bastard to yourself. Be in your office for the love of God. Then get back to work. Don't sit in the crap. I didn't write it. Somebody wrote it, and I was like, I'm stealing that.
Yeah, I can definitely use that a little bit more.
We all did. And I think relative to things like cleaning, bed, and organization, you got to figure out how it works for you. Your space is a reflection of your mind frame. Ben Franklin, whom I have his, I'm pointing to the wall. I have Ben Franklin's work schedule handwritten on my wall.
Wow.
And he does every time in the late afternoon, time to clean up for the day. So I do that a little bit, and then like a major overhaul of my studio once a week, you know, files and stuff like that. Before I read Ben Franklin, that's why it's important to read your history and learn from ancestors. You know, I would work like a dog all the way through Friday. And then I would crash. Hold on, because this is important. I'll send this to you, but this is Ben Franklin, the guy who got us electricity and one of the founding fathers of America, in his handwritten thing of how he works per hour. So you can see here we have get up in the morning, give thanks for the day, work, kind of reorient, work, clean up your world, etc. and so forth. But by breathing in, and I've read Churchill's, I've read Stalin's, I've read almost everybody I can get my hands, Genghis Khan's, their work schedules.
Yeah.
And you pick and choose and see what works for you.
Beautiful. Next question, Martin.
Sure.
What are the 3 things that you use on a day-to-day basis for your work?
Oh, hold on, because you made me smile on that one. See if I can find it. I can go from, okay.
It's getting serious now.
No. Well, you don't know because I say this, I've said this for like 25, 30 years now, right? And what I would say to a musician, I'm like, I said to someone, I'm just having all these images when I said this on the street and laughing with people. I'm like, you need a phone. Get your own phone.
Mm-hmm.
You need a computer. Bam. You need a car. Bam. Right? That's where I am there. Now, what I added to that was djembe, saxophone, piano. Okay? Now, those are my tools, and I use those every day. But
Djembe, saxophone, piano.
But if you were to break it into 4, and I know you said 3, I'm not a moron. I can read, but I just couldn't help myself. If you said 4, I would say your axe, your instrument, and then phone, computer, and car.
Okay.
Like if you were a 19-year-old and you were like, Mom, Dad, I need to get into business. Give me a car, give me a computer, because then you can learn everything or get a hold of people, get a decent instrument.
Awesome. I think that's very, very, very practical.
Yeah, man.
Martin, I want to acknowledge you for being an absolutely warm, friendly, open-minded, always giving person. I absolutely admire your listening skills. I would steal from you the giving thanks. I'm thinking about that for a while.
It's Rastafari. It's not from me, brother. It's passing through us. And if you spread that, I'm almost crying. Thank you.
I like the way that you treat people. I like the way that you treat yourself. I've never heard you saying any disrespectful thing about anyone.
That's for those that are listening. That's the most important thing in our field. If you're the guy going around saying bad things, no one will work with you.
Mm. And I am absolutely appreciated to having you as a friend, as a colleague, as a mentor, in so many things. And before we wrap up, Martin, what would be one sentence that you would say to young musicians in order to have a beautiful, successful, rich life? What would you tell them? What would that be?
Oh.
It's not part of the questions, but
yeah, I think this is always keep practicing, because and I make practicing church. I really do. And so no matter what's happening in my life, I have that stability, and I know that I'm getting better, and it makes everything's more manageable, because the most important core part of you is still growing. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I would say to someone who's coming into the field of anything is your growth on yourself is probably the best investment that you could do. Psychology, philosophy, therapy, knowing that kind of stuff. We're all flawed, hurt human beings that have baggage. And I probably attribute that to a larger part of my success. Mm-hmm. I went to talk to my shaman teachers once, and I spent 3 days in various painful situations to get the answers to questions. And one of the questions that I had was, how do I get to be in my business to be better so I can have more abundance for my family? What do I do for my business? And at the end of 2 days, it was take care of yourself and love your family deeply. And that resonance will create everything else. And so I think that's where I come with that is the instrument's one thing. Being the best person you can be, I just can't underline it enough. And I did not start this way. I did not start being this nice and caring. It was people like people like you when I was a kid, you know, that came over and mentored me and said, here's a better way to live through living through Buddhist example.
Beautiful. Martin, thank you so much for the time, and I appreciate you deeply.
Brother, I appreciate you. Cheers. I'll talk to you soon, Michel.
All right, take care.
Give thanks, man.